We have saved the best for last. I'm a little bit biased. I really enjoy listening to Dan. He always has great stories, and I always get something really useful out of it that I think, oh, head smack, I should have been doing that. So I'll actually introduce you, but I really do enjoy this. I hope that you'll take the opportunity to ask him everything while he's here. Dan Adams is an ISBM practice fellow and one of the foremost experts on B2B innovation. He has trained tens of thousands of global marketing, technical, and sales professionals across every conceivable B2B industry. In recent years, Dan and his team have conducted significant original research into behaviors that drive B2B organic growth. And because he regularly works with the largest B2B firms in the world, he can help your team establish a dependable roadmap to profitable, sustainable organic growth. He helps firms understand what customers want in a new product and avoid landmines that blow up high stakes projects. He is the author of New Product Blueprinting, the handbook for B2B growth. If you don't have that in your library, you're going to want that. And Dan is going to show us Claire today.
Claire.
I know. Looking forward to that. All right, come on up.
Thanks so much, Lynn. That was such a kind introduction. Mark Twain used to do his own introductions. And the reason was apparently one MC introduced him this way. I only know two things about our next speaker. The first is he's never been in jail. Second is I don't know why. So that was so much better. But I've been wondering, yeah, you can use that. Yeah. I've been wondering, well, when will AI start introducing us, right? I mean, it could be coming. And what if it was a snarky AI? You know, this next speaker is really just an empty suit, but it's okay because we lined them up at the end of the program and you were going to leave anyway. So, so anyway, this is really good. Good to be here. We're going to keep this very practical, what we're going to cover. But before we get into the material here, I just want to just say something about Lynn and Rand. Have you guys noticed a lot of professional associations have been withering the last 5 years with COVID and everything else? But you guys have just kept the thing going. You helped us survive and thrive. And I want to say thank you to you guys for that. That we have this organization. A lot of hard work. A lot of hard work. So for the next amount of time I've got with you here, we're going to make it very practical, very hands-on. We've been talking about AI. Today we're going to talk to AI a little bit, just to kind of give you an idea of some of the things that can happen with it. So a little bit of theory, a lot of practice. I think it was Yogi Berra who once said, in theory, there's no difference between theory and practice, but in practice there is. So we'll get a little bit of the practice going here, okay? So let's take a look, first of all, and talk a little bit about what AI can do for us when it comes to understanding customer needs. So now that was working just a moment ago. Let's just see what we got here. Interesting. Huh. All right. Well, I may just be doing this a little bit. Ooh. I think, let's try that. There we go. Now we go. So first of all, and George talked about this, AI often looks backwards. So it's really, really helpful at helping mankind learn, help us learn what mankind has already learned about a topic. That's how we're using it a lot today. But it's also good. It's really nice at summarizing insights and presenting them in a nice report, and just it's smooth, it's really helpful. But a surprising additional benefit of AI is it can help us actually think better. And so this is where we can actually practice with AI customers, get advice from an AI coach. So we're going to look at all three of these areas of how AI can help us when it comes to understanding customer needs. So we'll talk a little bit about the insights you can gather before you go visit the customer. We'll talk a little bit about how AI can actually help you write your report afterwards, which is kind of interesting. But what do you do during the meeting? Well, AI can help you with your probing skills with some practice. So we're going to look at this in two areas of voice of customer. The first is the more traditional voice of customer. This is what we call new product blueprinting. And I'll show you how Blueprinter AI function can help you prepare. We'll just really focus on that, getting insights before you go out and do your human interviews. We'll talk about that a little bit. And then we're going to talk about what I call everyday voice of customer. So we're a training firm, and For 20 years, we would train people how to do voice of customer in the front end of innovation. And many times people would say, shouldn't we be using these probing questions all the time when we're meeting with customers? And we'd say, yeah, yes, you should, which is a pretty shameful response from somebody training people to listen to their customers, right? So about 3 years ago, we said, well, we ought to really start training people how to ask good probing questions, not just when they're preparing to innovate in the front end of innovation, but every time they're visiting a customer, there's a lot that could be learned. So we're going to examine that. And we are going to be looking at some software, but there's lots of other software out there. The reason I'm going to be doing this is I want to do an actual demonstration so you can see how AI works. And if you're like me, you're going to say, whoa, I didn't know it could do that. I wonder if it could do this. And open up another door and like, oh, I wonder if it could do that. So my main goal today is to be kind of expansive in our thinking so we can really explore all the different ways AI can help us. We'll specifically look at 4 ways. We'll have some little quick case studies. But I'm going to have to get your help. I'll ask you guys to volunteer, maybe a product and an application you use, and that sort of thing, okay? All right, so first of all, we'll focus on this side, VOC for innovation. But you know, AI can help us do the wrong thing faster. And that's not really where we want to go with this. So let's talk just for a little bit about the best practices that humans have learned, and then we'll have AI help us with that, okay? So one thing that is helpful to do is begin with some qualitative interviews. If you made paint ingredients, you'd go to some paint customers, and you would ask them about all the problems they're having, all their needs. We like to call these customers' desired outcomes. There will be dozens and dozens and dozens of these, way too many to develop a new product around because they haven't been prioritized yet. So then you want to go back and you want to prioritize. Just as Kristen showed us yesterday, you want to ask how important is it and how satisfied are you today? And you're keeping your fingers crossed. I mean, this is even the same layout as what Kristen showed you. Remember that focus area she had? You're hoping for things that are important that are not getting satisfied, because the only thing customers might pay you a premium for is something that's important and they're not getting today. Pretty simple, right? So what are we really doing here? Well, and this will develop. There's different ways of processing this. The way we use it's called a market satisfaction gap. Very simple formula. The more important, less satisfied, higher the gap. We've done it with over 1,000 teams around the world in every imaginable industry, and have learned that if you get a gap of around 30% or more, the market is eager to see you fix this thing, okay? So what are we doing? We're diverging to all the outcomes, and then we're converging on the ones that matter. And this is the way the human brain likes to work. You know, you were at the reception last night, you looked at all the hors d'oeuvres, and then you converge on the stuffed mushroom caps or something, right? That's just the way the brain works. So we're going to be using that same approach here. Now, this stops errors of omission. That's why we do the qualitative interviews. We don't want to overlook or miss an important outcome. But this stops errors of commission, which is picking the wrong darn thing to work on. And this is what companies do over and over and over again if they don't do that unbiased quantitative work. Which one do you think more strongly correlates with new product success? The qualitative interview or the quantitative? Any guesses? The quantitative, yeah, by a lot in our research. And so we looked at 12 different voice of customer skills, listening skills, probing for value, probing for understanding. There's 12 of them, okay? One of them was called prioritize customers' needs. That one far and away most strongly correlated with new product success. And so the people who responded in the survey who said, oh, when I'm on your team, it's rarely successful. You don't want these people on your team. They also reported that their skill, their competency in prioritizing customer needs was pretty bad. Those who reported they were usually successful when it comes to new product development also reported their competency on prioritizing was pretty good. And this is far and away the biggest differentiator of all 12 VOC skills. And so this, don't pay too much attention to this. We don't even know what was in the other. There was a lot of mishmash that did not involve quantitative, but there were also, I'm sure, some very good methods that were a lot better than what that other bar shows there. Okay, so now we get back to AI. Everybody okay so far on some good human practices for VOC? Okay, so how can AI help us? Well, the sad answer is we have not figured out how to do the most important one without talking to those pesky humans yet. But what we have learned is you don't have to do as many qualitative interviews, and you can get to those critical preference interviews a lot faster. If we want to talk later about why we think humans are still needed for the quantitative and some of the qualitative, we can cover that a little later. But the real goal here now is to get through that discovery phase quickly to the critical outcomes in the quantification. And so this is a chart. Remember, Kristen had a little reference to Griffin and Hauser. So this is the work that goes way back with their company. And this is a wonderful chart, and this is how we've been looking at number of interviews needed. The more interviews you do, the more needs you uncover, but it is a diminishing return, okay? So AI is starting to change this. We did some research where we looked at a whole bunch of projects that we had converged on a number of preference interview outcomes the humans had done, okay? Then we said, I wonder how good AI would be at uncovering the same ones. And these numbers are pretty close to yours too, Kristen. Turns out that 60 to 80% is the answer. Now, how much time do you think it took us with AI to get those 60 to 80%? Anybody want to guess how much time it took us to get that? Yeah, it's about 10 or 15 minutes. So in 10 or 15 minutes, because we ran a couple different times, you've got 40, 50, 80 outcomes that are very representative of the industry. So now what we're able to do is we're cutting down the number of discovery interviews about in half with the teams that we're interviewing. So that's the big benefit of this. Now, let's just do a trial. Let's just see how this works. Somebody want to tell me about a product that don't do double top secret one. Give me one that is on your website or something. And let me go out to here. Okay, very good. And let me just go jump in here real quickly. I've been kind of collecting these. It's been a blast. So you can see as I scroll down here, all these different applications. One of my favorites was somebody said, our product is embalming fluid. Okay, we'll do embalming fluid then. Okay. So let's do an AI interview. And this is basically, for most of it, it's going to look a lot like a real human interview when I set this up. Anybody have a product you can share with me? Yeah. Food grade. Oh, I like that. Food. I don't have that one yet. Food grade hydrated lime. Oh, good. Okay. All right. So we're going to put in, I'm going to say food grade lime here. And then I'm going to go to the actual interview. And we're going to go find that guy. There we go. Now, this is what a discovery interview looks like with humans. So far, it's not any different at all, okay? You ask them, what are your problems? You record it, they see it, all that kind of stuff. But what we're going to do is hit the little magic AI button here. And what would be a type of company that would use your food grade tortilla? Oh, very good. I don't have that one yet either. Tortilla manufacturer. Whoops. And they would use hydrated lime, was it? To produce, it would be frozen tortillas, or what would it be like? Tortillas, okay, tortillas. And what we're going to do, we're going to get that lime in there, okay? What we're going to do is ask for 40 problems, okay? So we'll load that in here. Did I spell it wrong? Oh, 1L? Is it 1L? Okay. Hopefully, see, this is where it's good when AI is smarter than you are. It's like I run into this all the time. It's just not, I wish I didn't. So at any rate, what I'll do, I'll just go ahead and hit the tab button. But as we get through this, just a few more, batch consistency, flavor alteration, training, water quality, lime reactivity, shelf life, interaction, waste, production, temperature control, flavor. Do these look like the sort of things that you would run into with this? So how does this help us then? Lime dust. I didn't know there was lime dust. But here's how it helps. First of all, as I mentioned earlier, you can get through those qualitative discovery interviews faster. But in a little bit, I'm going to show you how you can role play. And in a little bit, there'll be a little button you'll be able to press. And you'll actually be able to role play with an AI customer on the problem of lime dust. And then you'll have Claire going, that was a good question. Now ask them this one. There are also, I'm going to show you something called a problem brief. Every one of these will have a 2-page problem brief with citations on lime dust in tortilla manufacture. The level of detail is quite incredible. It hasn't been built into this yet, but it is built into the next tool I'll show you guys in a minute. Questions on that? So that kind of wraps up the first part here, which is the VOC for innovation. So let's take a look now at this everyday VOC. How can AI be used in this? And so a little bit of background on this first. We like to think about it as improving the 3 Ps. First of all, can I prepare for my meeting better? Second of all, can I probe better during my meeting? And third, can I publish my insights to a CRM afterwards? Okay. And so what this tool is going to let you do, and again, there's lots of tools out there. This is just the one that I'm familiar with because we developed it. It'll give it in 60 seconds an extensive AI report all about this information here, news and trends. It will give you 2-page briefs on problems, trends, and process steps. And it'll even suggest, why don't you ask the customer this when you start your meeting? Give you several questions. Now, on the probing, we have something called what, why, clarify probing. I'll show you in a minute. You can role play that with Claire and the AI customer. And it'd be very specific to tortilla manufacturing, for instance. And then at the end, we have Paige, the amazing AI ghostwriter. And so you're done with your meeting, and you're in the back of an Uber, you get your phone out, and she says, tell me about your meeting. And she interviews you, and then she drafts your internal call report, and she drafts an email to the customer. So that's what we're going to demonstrate for all of these. Unfortunately, we couldn't quite get the voice going, so I'm going to talk, and you just have to watch Paige and Claire do the thing. But imagine, sometimes they have a nice English accent. It's really, which bugs me as a consultant. You know, good British accent adds 15 points to your IQ, so I'm really envious. But you're not going to be able to hear it today. We're just going to go with, you know, my Midwest accent. Okay, now, to be clear, I'm going to talk a little bit about sales professionals, but what I'm going to cover applies not just to sales professionals. This applies to technical support, marketing, product management, R&D, customer service, and your leaders. Anytime you're having a customer interaction, it applies, okay? What we want to do is enter our customer's world. Typically, most of the time when suppliers enter, they're spending way too much time talking about themselves, and they need to spend more time understanding those customer needs. Now, there's research going back 100 years ago that said, surprise, selling is a skill that can be learned. That's what was learned 100 years ago. But it was mostly left-hand stuff here, okay? And it wasn't until spin selling came, see that, yeah. It wasn't until spin selling came out that we said, oh my goodness, you know, we really need to start asking questions. If you ask the right questions, that strongly correlates with selling success. That was established with spin selling, and that gave the boost to consultative selling. And then in 2013, this is just reinforced with the challenger sale. You got to understand the customer's world, challenge with fresh thinking. Now, we did our own research last year. If you want to get a copy, go to voc4sales.com. And what we found was, yes, indeed, probing skills do correlate with selling success. We learned that those sellers who had been doing it for like 30 years, they were actually better at probing than the newbies. But here was the big surprise. We found that traditional sales training was not improving the probing behavior. It didn't matter how many times they've been to courses. Be very clear here. Keep doing sales training courses, because there's a lot that they do need to learn, but they're learning so much that for some reason, the behavior is not changing. Now hold this thought for a minute. Could it be because they didn't get enough practice time? And what if AI could help us practice, right? So you see where we're going with this, okay? All right, so this is the research. Most executives aren't too impressed with the preparation that salespeople are putting into their meetings. They don't understand my business. They don't understand my issues. And because of that, many salespeople do not get invited back. Why? Why don't they prepare? Well, it takes time. You know, most salespeople are not like heavy-duty researchers. They're put upon, they're in a reactive mode, and so they just don't do the preparation. So now, with this and other tools out there, in 60 seconds, you can get a report that tells about the company news, the market trends, the common problems, the process steps, and a company overview. And then you can use this to probe much better. You can ask questions to start the conversation, ask about trends, show interest, challenge norms, and especially uncover and explore problems. That's what we want to spend our time doing. What needs are there that the customer has? So I'll show you how this works in a little bit, the what, why, clarify. But really, if you think about it, AI is helping you master two types of preparation. It's helping you master insights, and it's helping you master skills. So both of those are subjects we're going to cover here. So there's a report you can download. I'll show you this in a minute. But when you download that report, it's pretty extensive. There's a lot of information. But you can also click on any one of the problems or trends or process steps and get a 2-page brief. And I'll show you how that works on one of these problem briefs. Okay. And I can role play on a specific issue like lime dust. Okay. And then, so this is what a problem brief looks like. Just has that information, but there's also briefs on the trends, and there's briefs on the process steps involved. Okay. So that's all about insights. What about those skills? So the what, why, clarify, you ask some what questions. When does that happen? How often? You ask a why question. How does this impact you? Then you clarify. Are you saying you want to minimize the time to install it? That's the process that we teach. So the what questions could be any of these. Where does it happen? When does it happen? How often? How long? And then, sorry, but it's a little blocked here. And then you get to, well, how does that impact you? That's a why question. And then you'd go to, are you saying you want to minimize? That's the outcome statement. Clarify. Okay. And then, this is really important. You say, thank you. What other problems are you having? You don't want to skip that. A lot of people, salespeople, for instance, they'll hear a problem and they'll reach into their briefcase, pull out a glossy brochure, a little bit of drool coming here, you know, lunge across the table and start selling, you know. And what we want to do is spend much more time understanding when it happens, where it happens, the impact. Why would that be helpful in a selling situation? Well, first of all, I know which brochure to pull out if I know what the problem is. Second of all, they've just told me which hot buttons to push. It's almost like cheating. Third of all, when I'm interested in asking questions, it's human nature. People want to interact with me more. They're more interested in working with me. So those are all powerful reasons to not stop without probing deeply. Okay? So we get to clarify. Now, this could all be done with practice. Let me move that bar out of the way a little bit. These skills require practice, but not necessarily with humans. Okay? And so that's where we get, sorry about that. Laura, I should have listened to you. I would be doing better if I had. Okay, so now this is where Claire can help us. So there's 3 people involved. There's you, there is the customer. Let's say you're the customer. And then you're Claire. You're kind of whispering in my ear saying, here, ask this question, okay? Yeah, exactly, yeah. Exactly, like a sales manager, you bet, with less stress. So can you tell me what problems you're facing? Yeah, we're having problems with durability because you make corrugated boxes for packaging, okay? And then Claire goes, nice start, Dan. Now ask him about what conditions you see this problem, okay? And then go, okay, what conditions do you know? So that's kind of the way this goes, okay? Now, before we do the demo, remember we talked about prepare, probe, last one's publish. Let's just talk about that for a couple minutes, and then we'll go into software and look at all of them, okay? So it's really important for us to record the meetings that we've been in, whether we're in sales or marketing or something else. First of all, it's been proven when you record something, it crystallizes the thoughts in your head. Second of all, if you think you're going to go back there again, unless your memory is a lot different than mine, you won't remember what you covered last time if you don't record it, okay? Third, this will help you recap with an email to the customer, which tells them you're a real professional and you're serious about your work. But there's one more benefit that I'm very excited about that AI is going to open up for us. We call this market scouting. Now, what the heck is market scouting? So 10 years ago, a good client friend at Corning said, Dan, why are you telling all of your blueprinting clients they should innovate in a market segment whenever they feel like it? Well, I don't know. Why am I doing that? And he challenged me. He said, shouldn't they be innovating when the market is ready for them, not when they just decide it's a nice thing to go do? Well, that's an interesting thought. So here's the example we came up with. So we make glass. We're selling glass to phone makers like Apple and so forth, okay? And we're wondering about crack resistance. Now, 30 years ago, the phone makers would say, I don't have a problem with crack resistance. Look at the tiny little screen there, right? But as the screens became bigger, they would anticipate a problem and they would have a problem. Now, somebody always comes along and solves this. In this case, it was Corning with their Gorilla Glass, and presto, no more problem. Now, we don't think about this, but that cycle I just showed you, that's being played out over and over and over in every one of our markets. We just don't tend to see that. The problem when we decide when we're going to go in the market is we could come in too early, I don't have a problem, or we can come in too late, I don't have a problem. So the point he was making was a very valid one, wasn't it? And so what we want to do is we want to come in at the sweet spot. We want to come in when we're anticipating a need. And so my buddy and I looked at each other and said, how do we do this? We said, we have the answer. We need to turn our sales force into a learning force. And in the 10 years since we came up with that brilliant thought, nobody's done it. At least they have. They haven't told me, okay? But why? Because salespeople aren't rewarded for learning. They're rewarded for selling, right? And do they like to put stuff in the CRM anyway? No. So everything's working against us, okay? But I think there's a change coming. I hope. And so here, we call it market scouting. And so here's the deal. If somebody in your company says, why isn't our CRM working very well? What's the deal with this? Why are we not getting to hear weak signals before the market sends loud signals? You could say to them, well, here's the problem, boss. There's 3 things that have to happen, and if any one of them breaks down, we're toast. Maybe all 3 of them are broken down, but here are the 3. The first is we've got to get it out of the customer's brain, those insights, into the salesperson's brain, number 1. Number 2, we've got to get it out of the salesperson's brain into the CRM. Number 3, we got to get it out of the CRM into meaningful market foresight. If any one breaks down, we're out of luck on this thing. Now, I have a little bit of good news here. The good news is number 3 is coming on fast because every CRM manufacturer is building all kinds of AI power. Do you remember if you want to do an internet search 25 years ago, it's like, ooh, if I don't get the keywords just right, I'm not going to get anything out of this. Now you go ask ChatGPT or Claude or something. It's like, I think what you really meant on your question was this. So here's the answer, right? I mean, you don't have to work very hard at getting meaningful data out of the internet or out of, in this case, ChatGPT. When the CRM producers all get AI built to that same level, your CRM is going to unload a wealth of information. You don't have to be that sophisticated, but you have to have the data in there. If it's not in there, it can't help. So now the price of not using a CRM and getting data in there just went up relative to your competitors if they are getting the data in there. Does that make sense? Okay, so that's a little bit on. So we think AI can help us with this part, practice probing, and we think AI can help us with this part, getting things out into the CRM. Okay, so now let's do a little demo here. We'll play with this. Some of it, again, you won't be able to hear all of it. Maybe I'll try a British accent or something. I don't know. Here we go. Let me go out of here and go to this and then move that. Okay. All right. So let's do this. Does somebody else want to also throw out another possibility, or should we stay with tortilla chips? Anybody have another one we can try? Yeah. Yeah? Good. Biopharma tubing. Excellent. Biopharma tubing. And I'm going to have to ask that person a couple more questions here. Now, my first question is, who would use that biopharma tubing? What would the customer do with it? Would it be Tricia? Hi, Tricia. Thank you.
Hey, Dan. For example, Sartorius,
Sartorius. And what do?
they use
Are you
biopharma.
using the manufacturer of biopharma?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
So let's do this. We could put in the name of the company, and I would have to get the spelling from you, or we could just say biopharma producers in North America. Do you see one there, or should I put yours in?
Yeah, like a Roche.
Okay, we'll put Roche in
Pfizer.
there. Okay, and you can specify what part of the world you're in. So the first thing we do is we got to put a customer in, and I did a shortcut because I knew I couldn't spell that, but I could have just typed in the name of the company. Okay, and now our offering is going to be used in the customer's process. So we are going to use what is it? It's flexible tubing. Is there anything else you can tell me about the tubing? Like what is it?
Yeah. It's a silicone flexible tubing.
I'm sorry. Say it again. Silicone what?
Flexible tubing.
Flexible tubing. Love it. Perfect. So you describe your offering, silicone flexible tubing. Customers use it to transport fluids.
Biofluids. Yeah.
In biopharma
processing.
Process. Oh, thank you. That's easier to spell. Okay, very good. So what did I need? I needed just three things. I needed the name of the customer, and I needed my offering, and I needed the job to be done. Okay. Now I could skip all this and I could get a report, but I'm going to show you how we work with Paige later. So let's imagine maybe a design engineer. Tricia, would that be good? Who would we work with?
Design engineer is one of them. One of the functions.
We'll just leave it there. We could add more, but we'll keep it fast. Let's say we met. Let's say we haven't met John yet. I'm a sales guy. I'm going to kind of tell them about the glories of our flexible silicone tubing. If our tubing is really good at some stuff, I can put that in there because that'll slant some of the questions. I'm going to meet with him tomorrow. I'm going to meet in person in Akron. Now, I could hit the button and generate a big report right now, but I'm going to show you how, especially as marketing people, you can be a little bit more customized. So I'm going to, it's going out, it's finding all the market trends related to silicone tubing for biopharma, and then it's going to give me the common problems that are seen with silicone tubing and biopharma production. And then it's going to tell me about all the process steps, fluid characterization, sterilization, all that stuff. And then it's going to tell me who makes decisions about this at a company like Roche. And then there's some news on the company. And this is going out. This isn't all AI. There's largest news aggregator on the planet with 200,000 news sources. It's bringing them in. Then AI is processing them to make sure they're relevant. O-Point, they're based in Europe. Yeah. And then I could say, oh, here's some nice questions I can start my meeting off with, and now I'll generate the report. And so this report will come up on your desktop. You see, I'm going to blow up a little bit so you guys, can you see that okay? Is that better?
Yep.
Okay. So there's some questions I could kick off the meeting with. These are the stakeholders. That's a 2-page job description I could download. The little company news, I could look at the news sources on that. I could download a 2-page brief on any of these trends if I want to know more. I could also download a 2-page report on any of these, like, I don't know, sterilization challenges. That's going to take a little time to cook, so let me keep going here. Then all these process steps, each one of them, I can get a 2-page report on how this is done. Oh, I'll open that up now. Let me come back here for a second. And then at the bottom, more about Roche, how big they are, leadership structure, products, competitors, and strategy. And then this is the 2-page report. Little problem summary, the causes and conditions of the problem, the relevant metrics, the impact, and some citations. So I could dig a little bit deeper if I want to on this. Now, this is all on my desktop, but I'm a busy sales guy. So I could also look at this on my phone. Just go out to Sales Prep, and it's no separate app. It's just browse and go to Sales Prep. So that's the prepare part. Before we go to the probe, yes, please.
I just have a question. Since Roche is a public company, if you have a private company that you're researching, do you get the same level of information?
Not as much. In the private company, especially when you get to some of the financials, it's a little bit harder to get that. It'll still give you quite a bit. It's pretty healthy, and the news is every bit as good, but yeah, a little bit skimpier on the information. Yeah, on the private. Yeah, good. Other questions on the prepare part before we go to the probe? Okay, so now if I want to role play with Claire, there's 3 levels. The novice level is I'm the customer, I'm the salesperson, you're the customer, you're Claire, but I don't have to do anything. I just keep hitting return, and all 3 roles are played, okay? If we do the expert one, then I am the salesperson, you're the customer, and we're going back and forth and back and forth. And at the end, Claire goes, well, here's how you did, Dan, at the very end, okay? But the intermediate one is, I think, the most useful because Claire will help me as we go. So you have to kind of imagine her voice here a little bit. Will you guys be able to read that text? Is that okay? Okay, because you won't, I don't think the audio is not coming through, but I can talk, so I'll try it. Can you tell me what kind of problems you're facing? I will pause it so we can take a look at that. So the customer tells me they're noticing leaks in the tubing during high pressure transfer, okay? And it's causing some problems. And so she liked my start. She always says that though, so, I take it with a grain of salt, But she says, ask them what questions. Try to learn more about the leaks, how often they happen, the frequency. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to go with that. We'll try this. I'll do 2 or 3 whats, 1 why, and a clarify, and then show you how you start the next one, and then we'll stop. It won't be too long. Here we go. So how often are you seeing these leaks? Well, they're occurring about twice a month during high pressure cycles. And so I'm getting some more information, ask more about the pressure. Oh, pressure thresholds. Ooh, yeah, how high pressure? I'll ask that, okay. So when you say high pressure, how high a pressure are we talking about? Said 70 psi. Now, this is AI, so don't take this all as gospel. Okay, remember, this is for practicing. Now, most of the time, it's pretty darn good, but don't say, Claire told me, or so, this is mostly for practice at this point, okay? But basically, it said 70 psi, and ask some more what questions, and I could do a few more what questions. I should ask more what questions. We're gonna jump to the why question. So how does that impact you? So once again, I did a very good job. And so now I'm going to go to the clarify question or clarify statement just to wrap it up. If you can read that, every time there's a leak, we have to haul operations, clean up. I would definitely probe on this more. Because if I can ask, like in downtime, how often, how long, how much, I can get economic value. We talked about value calculators earlier this week, right? If you know duration, frequency, and impact, those three multiply directly into financial value, okay? But I'm not going to take the time to do that right now. So I'm going to go to this. So are you saying you want to minimize leakage during high pressure situations? Oh, look at that. Well done, Dan. So anyway, so that's the end of that one. But what do you always do after you get to the clarifying question? Any other problems you're seeing? Tricia, your tubing gets kinked sometimes when we're setting up the system. So anyway, then we'd move on to that. So I'm going to just say goodbye. Yes. I was going to, it's doing the summary now. But a bad question would be, would you be interested in our tubing A346? I can get that to you tomorrow. Or, or maybe even at this point in the conversation, what would you pay to have that problem solved? That wouldn't be a good question, right? But yeah, we've tried that. And she's very kind about it when she corrects you, but she does correct you on that. And so now we look at a little bit of a summary of the interview, and it tells us how many questions we asked, how many problems, and so forth. And it gives us some feedback on how we could do better, yada, yada, yada. So let's go to the last part now, and that is publish, okay? So we just did a Roche report. Let's create a call report now, okay? And again, the sound won't work, but everything I recorded, the software remembers. So now we're going to do an interview with Paige. Now remember, Paige is the amazing AI ghostwriter, okay? So I have to remember what we talked about. Okay, all right. All right, here we go.
Did you uncover a problem the customer wants fixed or an improvement they'd like?
Well, yes, I did. They complained about leakage of some of the tubing in the plant.
Can you describe this leakage issue in more detail?
Yeah, they said it occurs when the pressures get to 70 psi or more.
What causes the leakage at pressures of 70 psi or higher? If you don't know, say skip or not sure.
I have no idea. I forgot to ask.
Does this leakage happen in a specific area of their plant, or is it widespread?
I think they're seeing this all over their plant.
How often are these leakages happening?
They said it occurs about twice a month today.
What people and/or things are involved when this leakage issue occurs?
As best I understand, this is the transfer of fluid between some of their biopharma tanks. That's, I think, what's happening.
Thanks, Daniel. How does this leakage issue impact Roche?
Well, they say it leads to downtime, and that really hurts their production capacity quite a bit.
Can you elaborate on how big of a problem this downtime is for them?
I didn't really get the duration of the downtime. I only got the frequency, and I didn't really learn more about the financial impact. So that's about all I got for you.
Got it. Do you think Roche wants to minimize the frequency of leakages at pressures of 70 psi or more in their silicone flexible tubing?
That's exactly it. Thank you.
Did you uncover a second problem Roche wants fixed or an improvement they'd like?
No, that was all I uncovered.
Okay, thanks. Now let's cover some additional topics. Any other insights, such as job changes, initiatives, trends, or competitive intelligence? Say skip or next when done.
Yeah, my main contact, John Smith, is new in this job, so any advice we can give him on maintaining better production uptime, he'd be really interested in.
Any other insights to add?
Yeah, we saw a number of boxes of our competitor, Nemesis Tubing, in the warehouse, so we should be aware they're a primary competitor here.
Any other insights?
No, that's all.
Any opportunities to pursue, other than working on the leakage issue you described earlier?
No, that's all.
What are the next steps for you or others?
Well, I want to pursue this problem that's come up with leakage, but I also want to see if our technical staff has any articles on improving production efficiency and get that back to John.
Any other next steps?
That's all. No, that's all. No more. Oh, I got to turn on the microphone. Sorry. No, that's all. Thank you.
Anything else we should include?
Nope, that's it. Now she'll create the report for me. But she'll give me a quick draft of the main things, so if I want to touch it up, I can. But now we'll let her generate the report. And we'll see what that looks like. And I can edit it, any point in time here. But there's a report. It gives me a meeting overview. I only have one customer outcome this time, just for speed, There's also some pre-call research that it built into here, some other insights, opportunities, next steps, and then I can generate an email back to John just to kind of recap it. So that it'll change, obviously, what's in the recap email. I forgot I had turned off Outlook. That probably wasn't the best idea. But there, I don't know if you can see that or not. Hi, John, thank you for meeting me. During our conversation, we focus on this. Here's my next steps. And so basically, that's it. That's the page interview. So here's what, we'll go back to that market scouting and the natural reluctance of salespeople to enter things in a CRM. So that took maybe 5-10 minutes, maybe. But also think about the activation energy to create a call report out of whole cloth. It's like, I'm tired, I'm done with the meeting. Where it's a lot easier, like, okay, Paige, let's go, and just answer some questions. So we hope that's going to improve the uptake of this. So that's basically it. It's time for questions, I think. Let me go back to the slide deck. Yep, I'm just going to leave it right here. If you guys want to play with this more, you can go out to sales prep, put in a promo code of 60, have a blast with it, and just see what can be done. So any questions on AI for customer meetings, understanding customer needs at all? Yes, please. Oh, yeah. There is that, isn't there?
Yeah, hi. My question is actually, you used Roche as an example. Does the system also account for cultural differences, for instance? So you're dealing with like a French company, but sales styles in the US can differ dramatically than sales styles in Europe, for instance.
You make a really good point. The software does not. But in the training, we get into a little bit of how to select those opening questions. I showed you kind of a brief list of exploratory questions, but there's also some meeting openers I jumped over. And so that's where, so to your point, in many cultures, you want to start with more called Rogerian non-directive. Tell me about what you're working on, you know? And then later on, get into more directive questions. Are you guys having any problems with sustainability and so forth? So that's where the culture comes in, more in the training, but the software doesn't detect that for you, at least not yet. Good question. Does that help?
I mean, a little. So I kind of do this approach manually where I use something like the Hofstede studies
Yeah.
that compares different cultural tendencies.
Yes.
Then I feed that into my sales funnel, my AI,
Mm-hmm.
to coach me based on like, hey, Michael, you're from Canada, but you live in Amsterdam. Your style is this. You're going to be talking with some dude from the Valley.
Yeah.
So you have to say bro a lot.
Right. Right.
You know, and then it gives you small, subtle cues onto how to adapt your message, well, your message to like land as best as possible with the person you're speaking with.
That could be an upgrade down the road. I love that. I think I mean, that's the beauty about AI. There's just, you keep doing more and more and more and more. Right now, we haven't customized it a lot to the individual person. It's more about the customer job to be done and offering, but that could be another area to go into. So thank you. You'll see something in your next paycheck on that one. That's a good one.
At the risk of monopolizing, I have one more question,
Yeah,
then I
sure,
will
sure.
keep my mouth shut for the rest. It so what happens is that after you're done the conversation with Claire or Paige or whoever you call it,
Yeah.
you then have to have, well, in theory, you have to have another conversation to document that in
Great.
the system.
Oh, I love that one. Thank
Whereas
you.
other systems have things like integrations that'll, voice
Yeah.
to text. And
That's,
to what extent can that save me the extra time of,
yeah,
if I'm tired at the end of the day, oh God, I have to talk again
perfect.
to a computer?
Perfect. So Page, we just released it 2 weeks ago, but we're working with some of our larger clients. And what we're saying to them is, this is what our call report looks like. First, what do you want the call report to look like? So we can modify the prompt to match what their call report. Then we say, what's in your CRM? Oh, you have an opportunity section. Let's map your opportunity paragraph in the call report directly. So now the salesperson gets a call report, a recap email, and they don't have to even, it'll be integrated within Salesforce. And Salesforce should be the source of truth. Well, whatever your CRM is, Dynamics, Salesforce, whatever. That will be the source of truth, and sales prep will be integrated inside that. Excellent. Yeah, other questions?
Yes, Don, I have a question. I'm online.
Yes, please.
Yeah, so it's about the data privacy. Who can see the information I enter if I try this tool?
Yeah, great. Thank you. So you all heard that, data privacy. That's probably something your IT departments don't care about much, right? So today, up until 3 months ago, if you wanted to use ChatGPT, you could do the public version, or you could sign up for an API version, which meant they said they wouldn't use it for training purposes. But then 3 months ago, within Microsoft Azure servers, so all of our data is in Microsoft Azure servers, encrypted in transit, encrypted at rest. And now within the garden wall, the closed wall of Microsoft Azure, you have ChatGPT and these other services. So that's what we're doing now. So your data won't be shared outside with any others. It'll be protected. Will that be enough for your IT department? Well, some have said yes so far, but that's a conversation it's good to have with each IT department. Thank you. And did you have also?
So first, Dan, since I used this tool
Yeah.
7 months ago, it's
Yeah.
like leaps and bounds where it's gone since then. And it was great back then, but it's even greater now. So I'm really curious to see where it goes in the next 7 months. I see a lot of great uses of this tool. So I'm curious with the clients that you've used it with, how's it been most impactful for them as far as either the types of clients that are using it or like the stages of like, is it good with people that are new to sales? Is it great with the older professionals? Who seems to get the most use out of it?
Great. So right now, when we do the everyday VOC workshop, it's only 4 hours, and it incorporates sales prep into that. That's the main thing we're doing. But we're training people in these methods and doing actually a little bit of coaching and so forth. Half of the time, that workshop is with all the market-facing people, sales, marketing, product management, technical. And the other half of the time, it's with the sales force. Okay, so it really depends upon what the organizational goals are there. Where we think this will probably have the most impact when the dust all settles will be this. Companies will still continue to do their normal sales training because they should. They probably won't do a great job in probing, and will be a little bit of an add-on to that sales training, helping them really get good at that probing. How do we do that? Well, we have a dashboard. Everybody who does a 4-hour workshop gets a dashboard, and they can see all of their learners, how many sessions with Claire, how many downloads they've done, and how many, I didn't show you, but there's 10 e-learning modules in here. And then they're certified in sales prep. So there has to be a little accountability, incentive, and then we do some follow-up after the workshop, not to criticize people, but to catch people doing it right and praise the ones who are leading, the early adopters, and that gets more people along. So I think in the end, it may have a heavy use in sales organizations, but others as well. Yes, please, Greg.
So I was just wondering if you actually have a conversation with a real person, and sometimes they're quite happy with you recording it. So could you feed a transcript from a real call into the system and get feedback?
Not today, but that is where we're going. And not only with sales prep, but with Blueprinter as well. One of the things with Blueprinter is you got a note taker, and that can be a little bit of a bottleneck in these interviews. So that's what we're looking at now. How can we use AI to process that? And you know, if you would have asked me 5 years ago, what about recording? I would have said, man, in B2B, it's just people get nervous. They clam up, and that's been our experience. But with so many Teams and Zoom calls, the culture is changing. So we believe that is coming. Yeah.
I've only had one time where they said they weren't comfortable with the recording.
Yeah.
But it really frees you up. If you are concentrating on asking questions, taking notes, asking, even if you have two people and one of them is, you're not paying full attention.
Yeah, yeah.
So having the ability to do these recordings, you can really concentrate on what you're doing.
Exactly. And what
the rest of it go.
That was a nugget that Greg had. Don't, if you're doing it the old-fashioned way, typing, one brain cannot do both. You really can't listen and type and think of your question. You need a minimum of 2. But if we could get the recordings in there live, then one person maybe could handle it all. Very good. Other questions? Yes, please.
So Paige, can Paige be a different persona? Like within our business, we have several different stakeholders that you have to get through throughout the sales cycle. Owners, engineers, specifiers, our general contractors, applicators. So you have to get through kind of all those people sometimes to, at the end of the day, win the project. Can you change her persona to
Yes, you
take on that role to bring it together?
In 2 ways. There's one way you can do it today, and the other way is can probably be about 6 weeks. Our developers are working on it now. The first way you can do it, remember I put in design engineer? You can put in any job function, and that will change the whole conversation with Claire.
Can you tie those conversations together though? Like if I had a conversation with her as a architect, could then...
Yeah, you can put in multiple.
Okay.
You could put in multiple job influencers, decision makers in there. So you can handle the different job functions, but then the interface, you saw there was just Claire, or just had a C for customer. In a few more weeks, you'll be able to pick different personas. I think, why are we bothering with that? It'll be different pictures and different, different dialects and so forth. I think that just makes it a little bit more realistic, but also, if I'm going to go and my customer is, somebody, an old guy like me, maybe that's the one I put up there, just because it gets me in the zone a little bit for that. So yeah, the personas are there and coming.
One more question.
Please.
There are a lot of different types of buyers in terms of personality types. And
Yeah.
And you have to, be able to be malleable and be able to get through that. And I think for like younger salespeople who are coming in and that practicing and changing, training, are you able to maybe have a little bit of an edge or a pushback or a difficult buyer? They are having worked through rejection.
We will. Right now, if you think about the entire sales conversation, we're not closing the sale. There's a lot of things we're not doing, handling objections. We're just doing probing on these problems. But in the future, we expect we're going to be expanding that. And that's when a lot of these different styles really come into play quite a bit. It's kind of surprising. Here's why we think it's important, just that probing part by itself. We have done these workshops, and when we first started doing them, we'd have these professional salespeople, been doing it for 35 years. And I was thinking, oh, they're gonna say, I can do this. And they're gonna say, why did I come to spend 4 hours? They had some of the hardest time of all, was getting into this probing method. So it's kind of startling how few people have actually mastered the actual probing of problems in a customer interface. So that's our initial focus. Yeah. All right. Great. Thank you.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Dan. We really enjoyed it. So